Are you headed to a US visa interview? Because if you are, you need to watch this video because I'm going to go through with you the 3 most important questions that you need answers to before you leave that interview. Hi, and thank you for joining me to talk immigration. My name is Andrea Shev, if you don't know me already, and I am an immigration attorney in Los Angeles, California. I've been doing immigration law for over 20 years now, and I put together this YouTube channel for you to give you clear, concise, and easy to understand information about all different types of immigration topics. Now, before we go forward, don't forget to hit the link below this video after you watch the video to give you a free checklist and pointers and tips on how to get through your visa interview and what you should bring and all kinds of stuff, all free, down below. Don't forget to click it. But before you do that, in this video, I'm going to give you the 3 questions that you absolutely need to ask and get answered before you leave your visa interview. Alrighty, the first question that you must ask before you leave your visa interview, and usually at the very end, is this question. It might be obvious to most of you, but a lot of you don't ask it. And it's, am I approved? And what are the next steps? So you have to ask, am I approved? They don't always tell you you're approved or what's going to happen next. A lot of times they say, thank you very much, and they point you out of the consulate. So you need to make sure that at the end of your interview, if it is not clear already, am I approved, officer? Can you please let me know if I'm approved or not? And if so, what are the next steps? What's going to happen next? What do I do? Do I pay something when I leave? What do I do? Do you need more information? What is the next steps? If they say that they can't make the determination at this time, then you want to know, what are the next steps? What do you need from me? What should I do? Remember, this is the only chance you're going to get to have a conversation with the human directly in front of you. And otherwise, you're going to be on email or desperately trying to contact them by other sources, which is extremely difficult in today's world. So make sure before you step outside of that consulate that you ask the question, if you don't know the answer already, am I approved? And what are the next steps? Okay, the second most important question you need to ask before you leave your visa interview is, what is your name to the officer? You want to get the officer's name before you leave your interview. And you ask why? Why would I want to know their name? Well, you want to know their name because if something goes wrong, or if they told you at the interview you're approved, and then all of a sudden you see online you're refused, or something else happens that you weren't expecting, and you need to contact the consulate, if you have a name of the officer, you can address the email to that particular officer. And most likely you're going to get a better response that way than if you send a general email to the consulate saying, I was at an interview 2 weeks ago and someone told me XYZ. Much more effective to say, I was at an interview on such and such date, I spoke to officer such and such, and they told me XYZ. It's much harder for them to not respond to that type of an email than to a general email that says, I was at an interview a couple weeks ago and I spoke to someone, because then they're like, who did you speak to? Who actually told you that? That doesn't make sense. I don't understand. If they have a name, then they can go back to that officer and say, excuse me, you had an applicant here 2 weeks ago named such and such, and you told them this. What did you mean by that? Or why was that the case? Or they might even have that officer directly respond to you. But it's much, much more effective, I cannot stress enough, that you get the name of the officer that you're dealing with before you leave the consulate. Now, make sure you don't ask rudely for the name. Make sure you don't ask aggressively for the name, but ask politely for the name, either at the beginning of the interview or at the end of the interview, but absolutely ask for it no matter what if they've refused you or they have said that they can't make a decision at this time, because you know you're going to have to probably follow up. All right, the last question that I highly, highly suggest that you ask the officer before you leave your consulate interview is, how long will it be before I get my passport with the visa in it back? Now, if you're approved, you want to definitely ask this question. even though a lot of times the response you're going to get is not going to be necessarily accurate to what really happens. But again, if you have the officer's name and you know that you're approved, you want to know how long it is to get your passport back. So then if it doesn't come back within whatever period of time they said, you can inquire and say, Officer so-and-so told me that the passport would be issued within X amount of days, and it's not here. Can you please follow up of why this is not the case? Or can you give me a status update of when it will be issued? But at least you have a time frame that was given to you at the interview. Sometimes the officers will be really honest with you and tell you, we're really backlogged, it's probably not going to be for whatever period of time. A lot of times they might tell you it's only going to be 5 days, but end up to be 3 months. I don't know. But the important part is that you asked the question. You want to get some idea directly from the consulate, not the websites online that say this is the typical waiting time, not the administrator that if you email the consulate and ask, they're going to give you some boilerplate standard email back saying a period of time. You want to ask the actual officer that's making a decision and putting your case into the system, how long is it expected before I'm going to get back my passport with the visa in it? You want to have as much information as you possibly can before you leave that consulate. Like I said before, this is the only chance that you get to talk directly face-to-face to an actual consular officer. Any other time you deal with the consulate, it's either through email, phone if you're lucky, or other kind of correspondence, which is very rare. So this is the only opportunity you're going to get. I wish I can go with every one of you to every one of your consulate interviews and do this for you, but unfortunately they don't let us in. They don't let us attorneys into the consulate to advocate or help you. So I have to stress what I would do through you so you make sure that you have the most efficient visa interview possible. And at the end of your interview, please ask these 3 questions. What is your name? Make sure you ask, am I approved, and what are the next steps? And lastly, make sure you ask, how long will it be, officer, before I get my passport back with the visa in it? You must ask these questions. They're basic questions, and some of them are a little bit common sense, but not everybody thinks of asking them. You're nervous, you're excited when you're at the interview, you sometimes forget the basics, but make sure you make a note for yourself to make sure to ask those 3 questions. Good luck out there. Make sure you click below and get that free visa guide so you have help from me for free to find out tips and pointers of what you should take with you and what you should do. You also want to watch my other videos on visa interviews to get as much information as you possibly can so you are the most prepared as you can be for that visa interview. Good luck out there. Follow me on social media and look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, good night, anywhere you are in the world, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.